This is the Good Government Show.
I was appointed after serving as a teacher for 25 years, which I loved, and being an administrator of the Chicago Teachers Union, which I love, and having run for a local government. My philosophy is that I never lose. I either win or I learn. Good government is a government that listens and responds to the needs of the people in the most reasonable time and does not allow the philosophy of can't, not, don't, and can't afford to get in the way of improving the quality of people's lives. One of the reasons that people don't engage in politics is because we talk to them in this otherworldly way. Make it make sense to people, and I think people engage more. I think sometimes you need a good hellraiser.
With the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this week, we thought it'd be good to check in with Chicago and Cook County. Get ready. You're about to hear a very lively discussion. If there's such a thing as Chicago royalty, Cook County Commissioner Tara Stamps, well, she may well be that. Her mother was a very well-known local activist, so growing up she met all the city's bigwigs. Then she became a teacher, working in Chicago's Cabrini Green neighborhood, which was once one of the roughest neighborhoods in Chicago, but it's much improved today. And one of the new teachers she was helping was a young 7th grade social studies teacher. Well, guess what? She became his mentor teacher, and that young man became Chicago's current mayor, Brandon Johnson. And she's very impressed with the mayor and what he's become. We talk about a lot of issues, starting about her working with Commission President Toni Preckwinkle. And we've had Toni Preckwinkle on the Good Government Show in a past episode, and she's a Chicago legend. We talk about how gun control is needed, but we also talk about how Chicago's crime is truly on the decline. And we talk about Chicago and the good government that Commissioner Stamps is working to help to improve her hometown. So join me as we check in on Chicago. This is the Chicago folks the convention may not see or hear about, but this is a real inside look at Cook County with the very engaging Tara Stamps, and you're going to meet her after this. The Good Government Show is sponsored by Ourco. That means our community. Ourco has found a way to make government more effective. Ourco provides the OUR platform, and this is an app that blends in-person and digital interactions to connect people with their government, their county, their town, their state. The Ourco app transforms meaningful conversations into reliable data. They can turn results into projects and programs the community has essentially already approved. It's sort of like a flash poll by phone, but without the call and in real time and wherever community members are. Maybe they're at their house or their office or where they're out just talking about local issues. Maybe the choice is between putting in more local buses or expanding the bike lanes. Ourco can get you an answer immediately. With OUR, you can engage your citizens or any group, learn what they want, and build programs and policies that advance your county, your job creators, your constituents. So visit ourco.com, that's OURCO.com, and learn how they do it. And while you're there, book a demonstration. Welcome to the Good Government Show. I am very happy to have, at long last, Tara Stamps, a county commissioner from Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. Thank you for letting me pursue you all day, and thanks for sitting down and talking to me.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you. I have talked to Toni Preckwinkle, who is a county commissioner in Chicago. We talked...
she's the county board president.
She's the county board president. You're right. Thank you for the correction. And a bit of a legend.
And a bit of a legend.
A bit of a legend in Chicago. What's it like to serve with her?
Let me tell you, first of all, when I arrived to the county board last June, I was very well received. People had, there were people there who knew me. There was also people there that knew my mother, like John Daly.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there in this kind of like otherworldly, very surreal moment, looking up at my mom, like, can you believe that John Daly is like up here?
Yes.
But he was so loving and so warm and shares so much. And what it's like working for her. She's so humble. Like, as much as she is a legend, she's also the person that calls you personally.
Yeah.
To ask you your thoughts on any kind of legislation that she's trying to pass. She's also the person that will call you personally to say thank you. She's also the person who never allows anybody to make her plate. and never allows you to like do this kind of, we call it staffing her in a way that makes one feel subservient to the other.
Okay.
So she's very loved. She's also this woman who loves young people and loves to pass out books as gifts. That's something after my own heart. And she's willing to share her expertise and her insight and always make sure that you have the resources that you need to be successful.
And that's got to help as a new county
That
commissioner.
has to help so much because, I've even said, we kind of need a better onboarding process, and she was completely open to that because I was just sharing what my experience had been, and I'm like, there's just a better way to do this, particularly since some people get appointed. Not all of it is just really like this 4-year terms, and
right, you were
people
appointed,
come in.
correct?
I was appointed.
How did that happen?
We're gonna have 2 more appointments to come after me this year.
Okay. Are you going to be nice to them on the way in?
I'm going to be spectacular to them on the way to them. I'm a teacher. I want people to learn. But I was appointed, and I was appointed after serving as a teacher for 25 years, which I loved, and being an administrator of the Chicago Teachers Union, which I love, and having run for local government as a Chicago alderwoman.
Okay.
Did not win.
You did not prevail.
Did not prevail, but however, I did not lose. Right?
No.
That was 2 opportunities for real learning in real time. Okay, so
fair.
Philosophy is that I never lose. I either win or I learn.
Abraham Lincoln lost more elections than he won.
See what I'm saying? So I learned a lot, and I learned my neighbors better. People call them constituents. But I like to say neighbors. I think constituents makes it sound so transactional, and neighbors kind of just is a warmer feeling because I want for my neighbors what I want for myself. So having that philosophy means that I organize and activate a little bit differently. And so at any rate, having said all of that, I was also worked really hard in our now mayor election, Brandon Johnson, and I had these experiences. So my name was being floated around as a potential.
Right.
And then I had to go.
You have a background.
I got a background, and I got a work ethic, and
just beyond being a teacher and being a union organizer.
Yeah. So
you mentioned that your mother has been a long time.
Yes, my mother was a longtime activist in the Cabrini Green near North area. Her name was Marion Stamps, so she raised a lot of hell for a lot of years.
Right.
I inherited some of that. I think sometimes you need a good hell raiser.
Just some.
We're going to say some for now. Okay. I think there are others who would disagree. But, they have not felt the full.
They have not felt
the full force of.
So you're starting off slowly.
I am trying to warm them up so they know what to expect.
Why don't I believe that? All right.
And so, anyway, so I prevailed in out of 6 candidates to be appointed, and then I had to run in a special election where I won by 85%.
All right.
In a special election.
So everyone's behind you in your district.
Well, I think they agreed with the appointment.
All right. So what's going on in Cook County? What are you working on? With the Good Government Show?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what's so important to me personally.
Please.
And I'm kind of figuring out how do you build momentum around these things that are important. And I think this is important to everybody around this country if you're looking at housing, right? Yep. And so my thinking around housing is if you are unhoused, none of the other stuff really matters. Like the housing insecurity impacts your ability to hold down a job, your ability to get clean, if that's the issue, your ability to be to re-enter communities if you're formerly incarcerated.
To learn.
It impacts negatively any other avenue of success, right? And so I'm looking at housing from our vulnerable seniors who, are attacked in many ways, and assessments are going up, and houses been paid for years, but now there's an issue with the taxes, to the issue of people, just working class people every day that don't have the benefit of an elderly freeze or a senior freeze or these other exemptions, but their property taxes and assessments are going up 40%, right, in a year.
Yep.
To even young people who are wards of the state, and as soon as they are liberated from the state rolls, they'll become homeless almost instantly. So that's my concern. And then, of course, being a classroom teacher. So what I'm doing about it, so just on Monday, it's starting with the learning. I think everything starts with an understanding of how it all works, because it's so convoluted and it's so bureaucratic. And so, you can have all the intentions in the world, but if you don't understand how each entity plays a role, it's hard to convey that to your neighbors so that they can have any agency. Isn't
education the best way out of a bad situation?
Yes, education is the best way out of a bad situation, but it's not people being undereducated necessarily that's impacting their ability to be able to afford their mortgage or pay their taxes, right? So those are not mutually exclusive situations, right? So, I mean, I have 3 degrees. And I hit my tax bill too.
Well, no one likes paying taxes.
I was stunned too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say as much as I am certainly an advocate for education, and I do believe that education is the pathway to make substantial difference in the quality of your life. There are people who are well educated that are still feeling the brunt of what I deem is an inequitable tax assessment situation in city of Chicago and Cook County that is causing housing insecurity for marginalized communities across the board. So on Monday, this past Monday, I had a roundtable. I co-hosted a roundtable with Mayor Nathaniel Booker, and we brought in all of the folks from county that have anything to do with taxes and assessments and properties, from the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, the land bank office, the assessor's office, the board of review, some mayors, some alders. And I said, I don't want this to be adversarial. I want this to be a conversation, and I want it to be rooted in education and an understanding about what's at stake. And it yielded some pretty good answers. And so now the next step is really digging in deep on the state level and with the assessor's office to see what relief can be brought to people in real time.
When I spoke with President Toni Preckwinkle, we talked about guns, and she was very adamant and strident in her desire to get the guns. Are we going to get the guns?
I believe that my president and the mayor of the city of Chicago and hundreds of thousands of city of Chicago, Cook County residents want the guns off the street. But we cannot do this work alone. We have to have the federal government to pass some common sense legislation around gun reform.
Right.
And so
that's hard.
It's been very difficult because, they feel beholden to some people who love guns.
Yes.
Even as they are used to go into elementary schools and kill children, right? And educators and people at the grocery store and on the mall and people on the street. And so I think that the mental health crisis that we are experiencing in our country has not eluded some of our lawmakers. I think they themselves too suffer from some form of mental illness where they cannot pass legislations that's for the good of the country as a whole. And it doesn't mean that you can't have, your rifle to go shoot some harmless animals if that's your thing.
Yeah.
But we want to save children and we want to save lives. And so it's going to take a lot of people who are well-intentioned and moral, have a moral compass that points towards justice to do so.
Are there things that you can do at the local level?
There are things that we've tried at the local level. I'm not sure how successful those have been, right? There are all kind of programs through Cook County about turning the guns in and, all of these other efforts that I've been made aware of. And I don't want to speak out of turn about what my capacity is at this time,
right,
to get the guns off the street, because to be quite frank with you, that's just not anything that I have delved into.
Right.
And I'm not the person to be like, oh yeah, let's, no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we attack this, but I know that the local municipalities and local government are trying, and they're trying and not experiencing as much success as we want, even though homicides are down and all of the stats are down, but the feeling is not safety, even though just last week Chicago was voted like the second best city in the country, right? So there's also this tale of two cities about how we market Chicago, right? So we market as like, oh my God, bang, bang, gang, gang, there's guns everywhere and people are dying in the street. Oh, and it's the best place to live ever. So, what's the whole truth right there? So I also believe, but this is Tara, completely Tara, that violence is also a tool to force people out. And it plays right in the hands of gentrification. It plays right in the hands of other things and other tools that are used to scare, harm people, to push them out while those communities get bought up. Not 20 years ago, Humboldt Park was this, oh my God, it's so dangerous to go to Humboldt Park. Now it's like this wonderful community. Why? Because they gentrified the hell out of it and then didn't put any money into it until they gentrified it. So what would happen? So I want to push back on the people about this. Like, what would happen if we actually invested in our communities and we had investment without displacement? Could we then turn the tide on what we're seeing in our communities, because people would actually feel safe, our schools would be better performing, our streets would be nicer, we'd have grocery stores and these green spaces and all these other things that make a community feel good and be safe. Can we do that and still have black people there? I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Just an idea.
Just an idea.
Well, now you're a county commissioner.
This is my point. And so wherever I go and whatever I can be a part of, I'm development without displacement. I believe that we can invest in our communities, like on the West Side, and that the people who have been there, that have experienced the harm, can also experience the healing.
This sounds a lot like good government. Yes, she says. She shrugged and smiled and said yes.
Yes.
She nodded. I understand that you have a relationship with the current mayor, Brandon Johnson, new mayor of Chicago.
Where'd you get that from?
We talk.
As it turns out,
funny enough,
I do. Funny thing happened.
Yes.
No, I actually had the very unique pleasure of being his mentor teacher when now Mayor Brandon Johnson was just a lowly 7th grade social studies teacher with dreadlocks down his back to his waist.
He was a 7th grade teacher?
He was a 7th grade social studies teacher at Jenner Academy of the Arts.
Right.
In Cabrini Green, USA.
And for folks who don't know, summarize Cabrini Green briefly.
So Cabrini Green is
one of the
largest public housing developments in the country. And it also produced some amazing, amazing people like Curtis Mayfield, like Ramsey Lewis, like Marion Stamps and Tower Stamps, although my mother came from Jackson, Mississippi. So I don't know if that's quite the same. Howsoever, I was the most senior middle school teacher and the chair of the middle school department when Mayor Johnson sought a job there. And so I sat in on his interview, voted to hire him, and then spent the next about 7 years, maybe those first 3, just kind of coaching me. And so from that, he strengthened my activism in union labor and unionism. And I helped him as a classroom teacher, and he's gone on to do amazing things. And our union has grown and really built up our political arm and have successfully placed.
Are you still mentoring him now that he's mayor?
I am. No, I'm joking. No, I try to. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Do you talk?
I think he blocked me.
Do you speak?
I think I'm on his block list.
Now, I can't believe that's true. Who would do that to you?
Because I kept sending like these little text messages like, Commissioner, don't text. Like everything could be for you. But no, we do talk. And when I inherited the seat.
Well, you must have done something right.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right? I think, I think it was said it's always the right time to be on the right side, to do the right thing. And if that's all I got, then I'm good with that. And I think this mayor is trying to do the exact same thing. Of course, it's been difficult, but I believe that ultimately he will be remembered as a great, great man, because he is a great man. And I think it's hard to be great in a city that's not used to great people. I think it's hard to be great in a city that's not used to compassion and thoughtfulness and kindness. I think it's hard to be great in a city that hasn't always prioritized young people and who has not always been unashamed to lead in their faith and in their blackness and in his being a father and a husband. I think it's difficult for a black man to occupy that kind of space and that seat of power. But I think he's doing an amazing job against all odds, and I think he'll continue to be great, and the history will bear that out.
You are the second teacher I've talked to today who has gone on to become a county commissioner. What is it about that job that sets you up to be a county commissioner?
It prepares you for everything. You should hire a teacher to run the country. We know how to budget.
Yes.
We know how to negotiate relationships.
Okay.
We know how to get the best out of the least.
Are you announcing your run for president?
You know,
right
not today, but I'm saying if this country wanted to get itself on the right foot and have
Are you
promise.
Available? Are you over 35?
And have the promise of the America that we talked about, right?
Yes.
The promise of the America that we've dreamt about. The promise of the America that's in all of our national songs. Then I think you start by electing a teacher. But because teachers lead from their heart with wisdom and sound understanding, and we don't mind asking tough questions and raising our hand. And I think what I see happening in too many of our governmental spaces is that we don't ask enough tough questions, and we don't ask people to show their work. They want to give us the answer. Do you remember that? Do you remember being in school?
Sure.
And you'll go to your teacher and you'll say,
"Do you have to show your work?"
You'll say, "Well, here, but this is the answer," and your teacher will say, "No, I want to see your work."
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I think that's the moment that we're living in this country. Everyone needs to show their work, not the answer.
All right. Well, now we're going to get into.
There's more.
There's more. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're just getting warmed up. All right. We're going to come back and we're going to get to your philosophy of government. After you get done with this episode, hear more good government stories with our friends at How to Really Run a City. Former mayors Kasim Reed of Atlanta and Michael Nutter of Philadelphia, and their co-host, journalist and author Larry Platt, talk with guests and other mayors about how to really get stuff done in cities around the nation. Check them out where you're listening now or through their nonprofit news site, thephiladelphiacitizen.org/podcasts. Now, this is the Good Government Show questionnaire.
Okay.
You have been an activist. You've been a teacher. You have run for office and learned things. But more importantly, now that you're a county commissioner, define good government.
Good government is a government that listens and responds to the needs of the people in the most reasonable time and does not allow the philosophy of can't, not, don't, and can't afford to get in the way of improving the quality of people's lives.
But sometimes you can't afford.
Sometimes you cannot, but you know what?
What?
When your mother couldn't afford something, she understood a budget, and we have a budget, and a budget is a moral document. And so you have to look at that document and say, what is important to me? Where am I spending my money?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think that if you can live with yourself knowing that you've spent your money on the things that you said is important to you and things that you know that's going to change and improve the quality of people's lives, then it's okay if you don't always have the money for everything. But you sure as hell cannot have money to continue to fund incarceration and things that lead to incarceration, but you cannot afford reentry and redemption. You can afford to penalize children, but you can't afford to educate them. You can afford to not house people, but you can't afford to look at your money and say, where can we actually be able to participate in the rescue of thousands of families that just needs a little assistance? I've looked at some budgets. I know that you can, right?
Yeah.
I've looked at my own budget in my house. You make decisions all the time.
Sure.
You know, I was a single mom for many, many, many years. Everything is a budget question. Everything is a priority. This is why you need to hire a teacher, because we are the least paid and the most innovative and the most creative with the little that we have.
That is a good summary of teachers. Yes. All right. That was only the first question.
Oh, my word.
Yes, I know. All right. Now that you're a county commissioner, how do you judge your success? How do you know if you're doing a good job?
You know what? I judge my success by when I'm standing in the grocery store and some elder comes up to me and she said, you know what? I came to your office. And when I came to your office, Commissioner Stamps, you had those people there. And I got my tax freezes and I got a rebate of $1,000. Or when there's a single mom in my office with tears in her eyes and she says, I have lost my job. And when I came in here, based on the fact that you provided this resource, I now will be getting a check for $6,000. That's how I judge my effectiveness. And when young people, whom I love more than anything, vote me one of the 50 coolest people in Chicago, that's how I vote.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Stop right there. You're one of the 50 coolest people in Chicago?
I am one of the 50 coolest people in Chicago. And you know what my award was?
I can't imagine.
A pair of fresh new ones that I was able to get customized by like a local street artist. Isn't that like the best?
There's 2 baseball teams, a football team, a hockey team, a basketball team, and you cracked the top 50. Well, I gotta ask, are you number 1 or 2? Are you in the top 10?
I don't think they did it like that, fortunately.
Right. Good. So you're just in the top 50.
But I was in good company. They were like 50 of the coolest people in Chicago, and I was one of them.
All right. How many other cool people are friends with you?
It was probably like a good 12.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're hanging around with the right crowd.
I'm in the right crowd. Like the mayor was one.
Good.
CPZ was one.
Okay.
His chief of staff was one.
All right.
One of the local rap artists was one. A couple of the local pastors was one. I don't know if you've ever heard of Slim Coleman, but his daughter Tanya Coleman, who's the pastor of Healthy Hoods. Well, I can't remember the name of her church, but she runs this program called Healthy Hoods. She was one.
So there's a little pressure on you to keep at this,
You know it's not pressure. You know why?
Why? Because you can handle it.
Because I get to show up as myself everywhere I go.
All right. So if people don't think you're cool and you're doing a good job, what should they do? If they don't like what they're seeing in government, what should they do?
Talk to me. And get involved. You know what? People stand on the sidelines and complain.
Yeah.
But those are also the people that they complain and then they say, but I don't really follow politics. And you know what I tell those people? Politics is personal.
Okay.
And then I connect the dot between policy and personal choice.
All right.
And I think when we make it personal, people get involved. People engage. When you say to them, oh, so there's this, you're 18, you can go to the armed forces, right? You can join the army and all of this.
Sure.
You can vote,
but
you can't have a drink until you're 21. And when you illustrate some of these arbitrary lines of adulthood or power, and you make it make sense to people, then they engage. One of the reasons that people don't engage in politics is because we talk to them in this otherworldly way. Make it make sense to people, and I think people are engaged more. And so in a very, very near future, we're going to be doing a podcast called Politics is Personal, and I'm going to be just drawing lines between how people live, what they're experiencing every day, and the policies that make it so, and arming them with the information to say, if you disagree with the policy, this is how you get involved, and this is how you participate in your own rescue. And people don't always know that either, because we bury the lead, right? I was at this, when I had my roundtable Monday, I said, okay, so why is it that you get this ridiculous tax bill and your answer to the 75-year-old woman is, oh, but did you apply for your exemption? Did you apply for this? Why can't we just include that in the tax bill? They're old enough to get it. Why are we hiding the resources and the rescue from the people who need it most?
Okay. So now that you're on the county commission, what would you like people to know about how government works from the inside?
I want people to know that, the 17 people, at least in Cook County, that's sitting on that board making decisions are just that, people. They're not wizards. They're not witches. They're not. They're people. Just like you.
Are any of them as cool as you?
Look, well, now you want to get into. Now you in my business. Now you in my business again. You in my business again.
Again.
You're a perpetual overstepper.
Apparently.
Okay. So, and I want them to know, A, they're people. B, they're accessible.
Yes.
C, that the money that we are making this budget on, that's taxpayers' money. Get involved. You can come down. Everything is open to the public. You can come and participate in the open meetings. You can get a copy of the budget. You can be alongside us in this process towards good government. We don't always get it right?
Yep.
We don't always get it right. But guess what? Sometimes we do. Like when we use some of that ARPA money to eradicate medical debt. Sometimes we do, right?
Yep.
When we use some of that ARPA money for housing initiatives. Sometimes we do. So there are things when we use some of that ARPA money and when we use some of our general fund money to make sure that we're funding reentry programs and that we're funding, we got $44 million dedicated to behavioral health and mental health supports in a city that closed all the mental health facilities just two mayors ago, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we do get it right. And that's what I want them to know as well.
What's the best part of the job?
The best part of the job is that I get to be on the front seat of it and be a part of improving the quality of people's lives. Like, I got a real say and a real voice, and that I can agitate and organize and collaborate. And at the end of all of that, people's lives are better.
What's the hardest part of the job?
Hardest part is when that doesn't happen.
But you still agitate.
And you've agitated and organized and did all of that, and they still say, but you still got to pay your tax bill in 30 days. That's the hardest part of it.
So now you're making news. Do you read about yourself, and where do you get your news from?
No, I don't read about myself, but
No.
I got all kind of tidbits, Politico and the daily news, and all kind of things that come through my wire every day to kind of like make me abreast. And now I have to get up even earlier so that I can like download all that information before I even start my day.
Who is your political hero? Who inspires you today, and who inspired you to do this?
Well, I'm gonna say my mother is my chief inspiration.
Yeah.
And the person who I admire most is actually not a politician. She's a queen maker, and that's Stacey Davis Gates, the president of Chicago Teachers Union.
Okay. Is your mom still around?
No, my mom passed quite a bit ago.
Okay.
But, she lives on, and me and my 4 other sisters. And
So you have this background. You had an activist mother. Did you envision doing this kind of work?
I did not. I thought I was going to be teaching and retiring from teaching, for the rest of my life.
You're not going to retire.
I know. It's for what? There's so many other ways to reinvent yourself. And I love that I get this opportunity, right? After having been in the classroom for so many years, I get to have this whole other chapter of my life, which I just see as an extension of service.
Okay.
And of servant leadership in a different way, a wider capacity, if you will.
So next time I come to Chicago, I'm going to find you, because now I have your number.
Please.
I've got to. I want to ask you a couple of things. What do you put in your hot dog? Thin or thick pizza? And what's your favorite Chicago dish?
Oh my word! Favorite Chicago dish?
Yes.
Pizza. No. Take that back.
All right.
Italian beef dipped.
Okay.
Mild sauce on the fries. Okay.
Gotcha.
I prefer deep dish.
Okay.
And I used to love Giordano's.
Yes.
And what was the first? Oh, what do I put on my hot dog?
Yes.
I'm not a big wiener fan, but
However,
mustard, relish, little onion.
that's it?
That's it.
It's Chicago. I thought you
It's
put everything on your hot
Chicago.
dog.
It's Chicago.
All
It's
right.
the Chi. It's the Chi.
All right. So this is the Good Government Show, and we always bring it back to a good government story. Tell me about a good government project you're excited about that you're working on.
Oh my God, this is such a wonderful question. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I've said time and time again, I'm a teacher. So I'm a teacher in my heart, right?
Right.
And I'm very concerned about the mental health of our young people, particularly young Black boys. And the suicide rate from 2019 has grown 60% in Black boys between the ages of 12 and 24. And so to address that, I started my own initiative called Shop Talk, sharing hope and overcoming pressure. So I've partnered with barbershops on the west side of Chicago and in my district. They open up for me on Sunday, and on Sunday they offer free haircuts. One Sunday it's 12 to 16, another Sunday it's 17 to 24. I bring in food, usually chicken and pizza, and I call them trusted adults, just really good guys from the community.
Okay.
Faith leaders that I trust, and behavior health specialists. And so they have these in conversations just about their mental health and other things that's impacting them. And if they have the desire to want to follow up and get some more intensive mental health supports, there's a warm handoff and somebody there to receive them.
That is good government. That was your idea?
That was my idea.
Well done.
I hope to bring it back next year, because I just started in since Mental Health Month in May.
Okay.
But so far we're up to 8 barbershops, and then in August we're gonna pivot, and we've partnered with 3 barber schools. And so my mental health specialists, who are all licensed psychologists, are going to be training the barbers on how to ask questions during a haircut that will flag an intervention.
I am so glad I chased you down today. Tara Stamps, it has been an absolute pleasure meeting you and talking with you. Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome.
Thank you, and good luck. And I wanna come back and talk to you in about 4 years' time when your first term is over, and we'll compare your thoughts on government then.
All right.
Deal?
Deal.
Done.
Done.
Thank you. Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your state and local government news from? Because that's getting harder and harder. And it's essential to stay updated with your community. And it's becoming increasingly important to know what's going on in other cities and states because they're likely facing challenges that you're grappling with too, or you're going to face eventually. That's why we'd like to welcome our new partner, Route 50, to the show. Route 50 is a leading online publication covering state and local governments across the country. They've written about states protecting themselves against the rise in cyber attacks, counties using AI to better support citizen services, local responses to crumbling infrastructure and extreme weather, and much, much more. There's a lot there. It's a one-stop shop for issues affecting state and local governments and their residents. That's you. That's all of us. Do yourself a favor and go to route50.com to see the topics and solutions they cover and learn what other people in government are doing. They also deliver a daily newsletter called Route 50 Today. I see it in my inbox every morning. I check it out, and you should too. Thanks again, Route 50. We're excited to have you on board and being a partner here at the Good Government Show. What is it that county government does? That's the question county commissioners get asked the most, and the simple answer is everything. On the Good Government Show, we're so lucky to have talked with so many county commissioners and other county officials that have shown us how effective county government is. County government dates back to, get this, 1634, making it one of the oldest forms of government in the United States. Think about it. Roads, highways, hospitals, schools, recycling, law enforcement, water, sewers, and most of the county, those services are maintained by the county. That's county government. The National Association of Counties represents all 3,069 counties across the USA. NACo helps county government work better together through things like sharing best practices. When county government works well, that's just good government. Another teacher turned elected official, so a few things stood out about the conversation. She talked about how she would help new commissioners. She said, "I'm a teacher. I want people to learn." That's an excellent philosophy, especially for a now elected official. Here's another thing she said I thought was kind of cool. "I didn't lose. I never lose." What an excellent outlook, especially for someone who's running for office to improve the place where she lives. To me, this means Tara Stamps is never going to stop learning herself. No matter if that means learning to be a better county commissioner, learning to be a better mentor for future elected leaders, or learning how to help reduce both crime and the perception of crime. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing from Tara Stamps as much as I did. And yes, she's a hellraiser. I learned all that in my brief time talking with her. She's definitely one to watch. Well, that's our show. Thanks for listening. Please like us and share us with your friends and review us right here where you're listening. Right now, where you're listening. Check out our website, goodgovernmentshow.com, for some extras. And join us again for another episode right here. I'm Dave Martin, and this is The Good Government Show. The Good Government Show is a Valley Park production. Jim Ludlow, Dave Martin, that's me, and David Snyder are the executive producers. Our show is edited and produced by Jason Stershic. Please subscribe, then share us, and like us and review us. That's the best way to make sure we're able to keep telling these stories of our government working for all of us. Then listen to the next episode of The Good Government Show.